Something to do.
Something to do.
Yeah. Okay, are we good? Okay. Okay. We are now on item number 34. No, I don't see Yim yet. There she is. Okay. Okay. Item number 34, 252 GLENROSE Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. 2 photographs of the front and rear of the subject property. Presentation materials submitted by Amanda Levy, the applicant. We have email correspondence from Forestry. They're asking for condition number 2. And we have email correspondence from Permits and Enforcement from Transportation, and they don't have any concerns. 11 form letters in support from residents on GLENROSE, Hudson Drive, St. Clair Avenue East. And I'm just seeing here if we have the adjacent neighbors. No, I don't see them. Oh yeah, 250 is in support, and let's see if 254 is here. Okay. All right, so one of the adjacent neighbors is part of one of the submissions. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Yes. Hi, my name is Amanda Levy. I'm the architect and agent for the clients.
Hi, Amanda. Are you speaking on behalf of the owners? Because I do have them listed here.
Yes, I'm speaking on their behalf.
Okay. Panel members, do you need a presentation, or can we go straight to questions? Do you have any questions for the agent? Okay, Ms. Levy, based on the nodding, I don't believe the members have any questions. So we're actually ready to go into committee. We've read all the materials, and unless there's anything you'd like to add that wasn't part of the submission, we've read all your presentation material. We're ready to go into committee. So if there's anything you want to add, please do so now.
Okay, the only thing that I would like to add is I did an analysis of projects on GLENROSE Avenue, Welland Avenue, and St. Clair Avenue to look at what FSIs were being asked for in the neighborhood, and found that they ranged anywhere between 0.61 to 1.01, with the average being about 0.75. So we're asking for just over, we're asking for 0.64. So that was the only item that I didn't show in my presentation material.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel members, let's take it into committee. I think these are minor variances compared to some of what we've seen today, but I'll leave it up to you. So, any comments?
Madam Chair, I agree. In looking at the, I guess it's the site plan initially, it looks like a large addition in comparison to neighbors, but when you're looking at the variances, not in fact, the variances are not in fact large at all. So I don't think, the additional variances are going to have any impact, additional impact that wouldn't already be there if they built it as a right. So I am in support of the application, and now that the applicant has also confirmed that there are other FSIs in the neighborhood that are similar or within the range, I'm even more in support of it. So I'm happy to bring a motion, unless my colleagues want to add anything else to.
No, go ahead.
Any other comments? Or no? Okay, so I'd like to bring a motion for approval of the application for the reasons I just stated. In my view, it meets the 4 tests. And it would be subject to urban forestry, condition number 2.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Niffel, motion to approve, including forestry number 2, moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Mr. Niffel. All in favor? Application's been unanimously approved. Thank you. Okay, item number 35, 320 Euclid Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. elevations. We have a previous decision affecting the property. Correspondence in support from 310 Euclid Avenue. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, my name is Kira Clarkson, and I'm here.
Okay, great. Panel members, I don't have any speakers listed. Do you need a presentation? Can we go straight to questions? We only have one variance before us. Does anyone have any questions? Ms. Valentini?
Just a small quick question. It just relates to the previous decision for this property. So is it currently a duplex? It doesn't look like it based on the floor plans, but.
There's really interesting little history, but I'll be brief because I know you have a huge lineup still. So we came before you actually 3 years ago in the summer of 2018 to ask for permission to build a house with an apartment. So we were classified as a duplex and we were unanimously approved. Then when in the fall we went for a building permit for that design, we were then told, or the owners were told, that we would be charged $75,000 in development fees in order to add that unit. Wow. So we backed off that because it really killed the budget on the project. So the owners decided, although it was going to be very hard on their finances, they decided to remove the apartment. They wouldn't get the income, but it was, anyway, we had to remove the apartment. So then we went for a building permit for a single family house without an apartment, with the same door that we're now asking for permission to have because it's already there. So we decided to do the one family house. But then in 2020, the regulations changed to allow for secondary suites in new builds. So buildings that have been in existence for less than 5 years. So we've now taken this opportunity to come back to you to ask if it's possible to have this apartment. We're told it's fine, except that the front door to it, which currently is below the porch, underneath the front door to the main house, can't be in that front wall. I don't agree with that general idea, but anyhow, so we're asking you to grant this minor variance for the apartment that's allowed, maintaining the door that has already been permitted. It's an existing condition, not visible, below the porch. We have support actually from neighbors on both sides as well. Their letters came later. So that's the little blurb.
Thank you. That actually clears it up because I was like, is this already a duplex? And anyway, I guess it was worth your while to wait. So that's a good thing. But the door is already in existence, right? Is that the case?
Existence, and it's the right thing for the city to be doing. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good story.
Yeah, it's not bad, right?
Okay, any further questions, panel members?
No.
All right, Ms. Clarkson, we're ready to go into committee. We've read the materials. We have no more questions. Anything you want to add that's not already been said or is in the submissions?
No, thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, let's take it into committee.
Lisa?
Sure, I'm happy to bring a motion forward. It's already in existence. It makes sense to permit it, and I don't think there's any impact from the proposal, so motions for approval without any conditions.
Okay, seconded by, okay, Ms. Chan. Okay, motion to approve, moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Ms. Chan. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you very much. The next item, item number 36. Number 3, Thornhill Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have correspondence in support from Barry and Jennifer Hillier at 26 Raymond. We have opposition from number 7 and number 1 Thornhill and number 16 Raymond Avenue. I'm showing 2 speakers. Okay, we do have both of them. Can I have the agent identify himself, please?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Dan Achimovich from DA Design. I'm the designer and the agent for this property.
Okay, I do have 2 speakers in opposition. If you could start your presentation now, you have 5 minutes.
Certainly, if someone could please share our drawing package. And we can start off with the proposed site plan if you don't mind. The next one. Yep. Yep, perfect. Okay, so yeah, thank you. I appreciate the zooming in. So as you can tell on this site plan, basically the gray box hatch represents the existing two-story brick dwelling, and the proposal in front of you is for the one-story addition at the back of this property. As you can tell, this property is fairly narrow at 25 feet and fairly long at quite a bit towards the back there regarding the property line. So the addition that we're proposing is 24 feet towards the back, leaving a backyard of almost 50 feet. Initially, when we actually did this design, the owners asked us for more living space. As we all know, everybody's living, working, teaching, studying from home. So the idea here is to give this growing family, expanding family, some more living space. And basically the design initially was a little bit wider, in fact, and when we received the zoning review, we noticed that we were a little bit over, so we wanted to minimize the number of variances. We built within the setbacks. In fact, the rear setback is nowhere near. So we have a 24-foot extension, but there's probably another 15, 16 feet towards the back. The only item that's come up through the zoning review has been the floor space index being over the amount that's actually allowable. I do notice that there's 3 letters of opposition here, and I can maybe speak to some of those comments even after the speakers, if that's the other speakers, if that's possible. We have reviewed them with the owners. We have, discussed them, and in fact, the owner of 3 Thornhill has spoken to his immediate neighbors at number 5 and number 1, explained the proposal, and I was informed that the owners of number 5 are in agreement with this proposal, are not against it. The elevations that you were just showing, actually, if you can go back just one up. Yeah, so that's the back view of this addition. Again, we kept the impact on the neighborhood in our minds as we designed this. Also, so we put in a low slope roof, right? So all of this with the intention of not impeding on the enjoyment of the backyards of the neighbors on the 2 sides, and even further out. I believe one of the letters of objection is from number 7, Thornhill. So yeah, and this elevation as well. Now, because we're only 3 feet from the property lines, we left the side walls without any windows, because the minimum required is 4 feet as per OBC. We did put in a couple of skylights, so to me that kind of works in the neighbor's favor, because from a privacy perspective, even light flooding their backyards at night, it's not going to be an issue. The only windows are at the back of this, plus the skylights at the top. And in addition to all that, the foundation will be built using stilts instead of a regular foundation. So from an excavation perspective, we're going to limit the impact on the surrounding properties, especially the property at number 5. Excavation will not be required. We will not disturb their fences and foundations and so on. So it should have very little impact during construction as well as after the fact.
Okay, thank you. Just for the committee members, based on what I read on the submissions for the objectors, they're speaking about a tree, sunlight, snow melt, size, fence removal, relocation of internet phone lines. I just want to reiterate that this committee deals with planning issues only. We don't have jurisdiction over things like relocation of internet lines, snow melt, anything related to runoff is dealt with through grading plans through the building process. So I just want to point that out. Okay, do I have Caroline Stirk on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, I can. Can you identify yourself, name and address for the record, please?
Yes, I'm Caroline Stirk, and I live at 16 Raymond Avenue.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. The clock starts now.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to this project. As I mentioned, I live at 16 Raymond Avenue. Our home is located around the corner from the subject property, and we will have a direct sight line of the proposed addition because our backyard abuts 1 Thornhill and overlooks the backyards of the homes on the east side of Thornhill Avenue. I'm participating in today's hearing because I have concerns about the size and the visual impact of the addition that's been proposed. If your team could pull up my letter of objection, I've included 2 images that will illustrate my concerns. Perfect, thank you so much. So we bought our home in February of this year, and one of the things that really drew us to the property was the view and the sense of openness in the backyard. Our yard isn't large, but it feels larger and more spacious thanks to the long sight lines of the backyards along the east side of Thornhill Avenue. We really love the view, and it's actually even nicer than what's pictured in my letter because the dogwoods are in bloom and the bushes, and it's just really lovely, and I hate to lose it. The addition on the subject property, if it's built as proposed, will span most of the width of our backyard. There we go in the second figure. That's really going to obstruct our view and make our property feel much more closed in. I've created my own DIY rendering of what I think this will look like from our backyard in figure 2. This large blank wall with nothing but siding doesn't do much to offset the obstruction of our really lovely green view. I've spoken with the owners to the north of the subject property, and they have expressed concerns about the shadow that this addition is going to cast over their backyards, especially during the winter months. Many homeowners in this neighborhood have made additions to their homes, and frankly, I don't oppose new additions that are modest in size. My concern about this project is that the addition is really, I think, quite large. According to the site plan, the proposed addition is going to add 447 square feet to the main floor. That's going to increase its size by 66.5% and its length by 24 feet. By contrast, the single-story addition at 5 Thornhill Avenue is 14 feet 3 inches long, and the addition at 1 Thornhill Avenue is 7 feet 4 inches long. The existing dwelling at 3 Thornhill Avenue already exceeds the maximum permitted floor space for a lot of this size. And if a variance is granted today, the total square footage of this home will be 38% higher than what is allowed currently in the bylaw. To my mind, this is not a minor variance, and I wonder if the homeowner's objectives could be achieved with a smaller building footprint. For example, could the addition be smaller, or might the 3rd floor of this dwelling be developed as a family room instead? Every variance that is granted by this committee sets a precedent for future developments in the area. If other owners start building additions of this size, it could have a host of undesirable impacts like diminishing green space, negative impacts on birds and insects, reduced infiltration capacity for stormwater, and an increase in the urban heat island effect. Thanks so much for your attention and for considering my concerns in your ruling. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions of the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thanks. Mr. Kolaruk, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you please identify yourself, name and address for the record?
Yeah, it's Marco Korolak, and I'm the co-owner of number 1 Thornhill Avenue, right next door. We share the mutual drive.
Okay, we're going to start the clock now. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll just clarify something that the applicant's representative said. At no time did the owner have conversations with me about his addition or the impact that it had on my property. He sent me a text on the same day that I received a letter from you guys in the mail, basically telling me he was putting an addition on. Aside from that, I understand from your comment earlier that any impact on my property, like all impact on my property, isn't necessarily up for review at this meeting. But there are 2 items, item 2 and 4. There's a fence, temporary fence that was installed quite some time ago. I presume it's going to be removed to allow him to construct his addition. I was hoping that the committee would reinforce that that fence is on the mutual drive, and it should, when it's removed, it should stay down. And the second item is item 4, which is to do with parking. I have an ongoing issue with the applicant parking his car on the mutual drive in front of the house. And since he's essentially cutting himself off from creating a parking pad in the backyard, I wonder if the committee could impose a condition that he actually install a parking pad in front of his house so that he's not on the mutual drive portion of the driveway. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think the committee can put that kind of condition in because we're not sure if the bylaw permits them there or not, so I'm not sure we can do that. But I will go back to the agent and have him address the concerns you raised as well as those by Ms. Stirk. Okay, are you
Okay,
there,
thank you.
Dan?
I am, thank you very much. Yep, no, I appreciate the comments, and I apologize if I had misled in any way that the owner did speak to the owner of number one. I thought that had transpired, but if it did not, I apologize for that. I know that there was an extensive conversation between the owner and the owner of number 3 and number 5. That I know for sure. We spoke about that. So as far as landscape, some of the comments regarding stormwater, this again, this addition will be built on stilts. So from that perspective, we literally will not be building a foundation. So from a stormwater management perspective, it will be basically the soil will be below this addition to absorb any of the storm water, so there shouldn't be any issues. Now, in addition to the FSI, the owners have also told me, or basically informed me of a variety of things regarding the developments in this neighborhood. So, for example, across from Raymond, there is a brand new development going in, or new development going in with much bigger FSI than we're proposing here. There's some much larger 3-story proposals throughout the neighborhood. So we just find that this 1-story addition without a basement is, very small in scale. And again, the proposals of using the 3rd floor with small children is just not really practical. And this family is probably going to be living on this ground floor. As we all seem to be all in our houses these days. Again, I just would like to just reiterate that there is much bigger developments throughout the neighborhood, and I just find that this one it suits the neighborhood, and it is also very much within the scale of the existing home.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? Mr. Clay?
Quickly, Chair, does the agent, do you know what the exact size of the existing house is?
Pardon me, do I know what?
The existing
The
FSI.
existing FSI.
Yeah, if you just zoom in on this drawing, right in the middle, it states what it is there. So zoom in on there if you can.
Sorry, zoom in on what?
Right on that diagram, on the site plan, on the proposed site plan, if you zoom in on the floor space index, so scroll down a little bit, yep, okay. Yeah, actually you had it there, yep.
You could just tell them.
Yeah, so the, oh, okay, sure, so the total GFA is with the proposal. Now, are you asking about the existing?
Yeah, I just wondered what the existing footprint, like what's your existing FSI, so we know how an increase to 0.55 actually might be over existing.
Well, I can do the existing number, and it's being highlighted here for me, so I appreciate that. So 13, I have the same image on my screen here. So if we take 1346, I guess I can do this quickly and divide it. I'll just take a look at my own screen here.
Isn't it 439.93 square feet in the proposed?
I think we're at 0.41 is the existing FSI, and we're asking for 0.552.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Clay? Okay, Anybody, any other questions for the agent? Okay, seeing none. Okay, we're ready to take it into committee. Mr. Nipfel, did you have a comment? Go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I have some concerns with this application. I think if you look at the location map and the survey and so forth, you'll see that the proposed addition, although it's only one story, is in fact much larger than what is the dominant size of footprint within the immediate area. I think that both of the objectors raised legitimate concerns about it blocking view, blocking light. We hear that all the time, but the lady who proposed the drawing of her own, that was actually quite convincing. If my calculations are correct, there's the addition is about 45.9 square meters. I just think that that's too much on this particular property, notwithstanding the fact that it has a very large backyard. There are no other additions that I can see that are anywhere near that footprint. And so I had concerns when I reviewed this. Nothing that I've heard has alleviated my concerns. In fact, the objectors have actually made me even more concerned than I was prior to the meeting.
Okay, any other comments?
I will wait in. I actually see it the other way, and then I'm thinking people thinking about sightline. It's actually very difficult to protect a sightline because then I mean, like you like to see a clear sight or something, but then people will like to develop their property, and it's not a protected right. The sideline is not protected right, and since that the only variance is about the FSI, and they're asking for 14% more, and they do not have a setback variance, height, or any other variance. I think that I can support the application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Mr.
I'll wait. I was going to say exactly what Yim said. All the points he made were the points that I was going to make. There's no height variance, there's no depth variance, there's no length variance. It is only a one-story without a basement. I do agree that, you know, sight lines are great, but, you know, there's no automatic to sight line into someone else's backyard. So I thought the actual variance that's being requested is fairly minor, given what we deal with. And I know this neighborhood, there are large houses, large lots. There is a lot going on in the broader neighborhood in terms of additions and extensions. So I think I can support this application as well.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, we'll try a motion then.
Me too.
Sure.
Okay. I would like to move for approval. I don't think there's any conditions. And
No.
yeah.
Okay, I have a motion to approve, moved by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? And Mr. Nipfel, you dissent? Okay, the application has been approved and Mr. Nipfel dissents. Okay. The next item is item number 37, 220 Millwood Avenue, Road. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans. We have presentation material that was submitted by the agent. And I show one speaker in opposition. Okay, is the agent on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Can you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yep, my name is Marco Rotundo. I'm representing the owners at 220 Millwood Road.
Okay, I have one speaker in opposition, so can you do a brief presentation, please? No more than 5 minutes.
Yep, not a problem. If the presentation material could be pulled up for reference, please.
Sure. Any particular page you want to start with?
You could start with the first page is fine. We'll go from there.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So, good evening, committee. Our proposal here today is quite simple. We're requesting a single variance to the requirement for 50% softscape or open landscape requirement in the rear yard. A little background on this property. It's currently a legal duplex with an existing unfinished basement. The unfinished basement has an existing access to from the walkout to the rear yard, and the owners at 220 would like to develop the basement into a legal third apartment, hereby making this a legal triplex. This is currently allowed in this zoning area. The only requirement is that an additional parking space is required for each of the units. As you can see from the site plan, there's currently 2 existing parking spots at the rear of the property in an existing garage structure. There's also a large part of the rear yard taken up by a public right-of-way. If you could just go to the next page, please, for quicker reference. You can see that there's a large right-of-way and the 2-car garage. We're proposing a third parking spot be inserted off of the right-of-way into the rear yard. We're considering doing this with permeable pavers to minimize any environmental impacts. As a result, however, with the right-of-way and the existing garage, as well as a few pavers in order to facilitate safe passage to the property, will be slightly over the permitted hardscape. In our opinion, this is quite minor and will allow us to satisfy the requirements for adding a third apartment in an already existing walkout, which is permissible in this area. From our perspective, that's all I have to say on the matter right now, so we're open to hearing on our opposition.
Okay, we'll hear from the opposition and then we'll have you come back to address the concerns raised. Ms. Chiarotto, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Can you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, hi. My name is Joanne Chirotto, and I'm the owner of 224 Millwood Road.
Okay, we're going to start.
And the proposed...
Yeah, no, we're going to start the clock now. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, the proposed parking space would be right beside my property. The previous owner of 220 Millwood added a basement apartment, and the current owners have always rented out their basement apartment until sometime late last year. Past basement apartment tenants at 220 Millwood have always parked in the laneway. Tenants also have access to street parking on Millwood Road. A vehicle entering and exiting this parking space in the rear yard may become a hazard to tenants walking in the laneway, as this would be the first parking space of its kind and unexpected. My rear yard is well landscaped with grass, flowers, and bushes. I spend my time and energy making my rear yard a beautiful green space for my tenants and neighbors. There is a low chain link fence that separates my property from 220 Millwood, and my tenants and I don't want to see my neighbor's rear yard turn into a parking lot. I think the rear yard should be an escape from the city's concrete jungle. A vehicle parked in my neighbor's rear yard would be a nuisance for my tenants and myself. Some of my tenants have small children. Car lights can bother tenants as my bedrooms are at the rear of my building. There is the noise and smell of exhaust the vehicle will make when starting and stopping, and the vehicle may just be ugly to look at. Finally, there is no place to pile snow in the rear yard at 220 Millwood if there is a parking space. I hope the committee will not approve this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Mr. Rotundo, can you please address the concerns expressed?
Absolutely. So just addressing a few of the things here. I mean, taking a look at the present fabric of the area, this is clearly an area which is resulting in a little bit higher density residential There are a number of, I'm sure, basement apartments existing. Whether or not they are legal is quite another matter. And I cannot speak to anything that happened previously. I can only know that the current owner is trying to do this legally and follow the procedures at hand. I think it's not uncommon to find entire rear yards in the surrounding area taken up entirely as parking lots to facilitate parking. Our proposal is quite minor in my opinion. As for the hazardous nature of the laneway due to this additional parking spot, I don't think that there's any additional danger as what currently exists. The entire laneway is lined with garages that the speaker in opposition also has access to on her property. It extends quite extensively down. She also has 2 garages. I don't think that adding another parking spot would have any sort of negative effect on what already exists. And parking in the laneway, I don't think, in my opinion, I think that would actually be more obstructive to the actual fabric of the neighborhood than just, simply adding a parking spot into our rear yard. If there is an issue with, a major issue with between the chain link fence, the owners have mentioned that they would not be opposed to erecting a privacy fence along that rear yard area where the parking spot is being proposed in order to help ease the situation. Other than that, I do not believe that, as we mentioned actually just in the last item number, sight of an ugly vehicle, I mean, sight line across a property is not really a protected right. Having said that, I believe that this is still a very, very minor variance request and as a whole will not have a negative impact on the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? Ms. Valentini and then Ms. Chan.
I haven't taken note of this, but maybe you can let me know. What is the current softscape for the rear yard? Does it meet the bylaw requirements, or is it deficient, or what's the situation?
I believe the current area calculation of hardscape is within the bylaw. I know that there's a section just in front of, if you can go to the next, actually the one page up, please. Yes, there's a section right in front of the existing stairs. You can see just at the bottom of the page. Those go up to the 2nd floor access. There's a large spot in front of there leading to the laneway, which is currently paved. But the current parking spot and the slightly expanded landing we're proposing that. So although I don't have exact numbers for you, I would estimate that the current hardscaping would likely be within the bylaw restraints, though I can't confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, panel members? Ms. Chan? Can't hear you.
I muted myself. Can we have the same drawing up? The question is about the paved area. Are those permeable pavers?
Yes, the actual parking spot that we are proposing. I'm not entirely sure what the right of way is currently. I assume it's asphalt. I'm not sure if it's. I doubt it's permeable. But our proposed parking spot would be permeable pavers. Yes, correct.
Oh, so the right of way is not. You cannot modify it or anything, right? It is what it is.
That's correct. It is what it is. I believe that belongs to public jurisdiction since a large number of the residents are relying on that to get to their properties.
Yeah, because it's drawn. I thought that is.
No, I apologize. Yeah, could be the choice of hatching, but yeah, I apologize for the confusion. The right of way is what it is. We're not modifying it in any way, but we are proposing that our parking spot be made of permeable pavers.
Understand. Thank you. Thank you.
Any further? And Mr.
If I could, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Mr. Clay, and then Mr. Nipfel has a question.
I was just looking at the same drawing everyone else, just in an effort to increase the amount of landscaping or, comparable. The walkway looks like it's a series of concrete steps. Could that be permeable as rather than what looks like it's going to be concrete patio stones, something of that nature?
Absolutely. We could definitely facilitate the use of permeable pavers for all the area that we're proposing, save the landing area. But the stone pavers and the parking spot, yes, we would be open to using permeable pavers there as well. Though I believe, according to the zoning examiner and bylaw, the permeable pavers still don't count technically. That's why we're here to.
Yeah, no, and yeah, we all get that, but this is often what we use as a bit of a, you know, a soft way of getting the real soft landscape without actually being considered soft. So if you are prepared to do that, that actually help your numbers a little bit.
We'd be certainly be open to doing that, not a problem.
Mr. Nipfel?
I didn't understand the answer to Ms. Valentini's question. Could you put the same drawing back up again? Is the existing condition, is everything that's green on that drawing now green? And is the difference that the existing condition where the parking space is currently green? Is that what you currently have as soft landscaping, or what is currently soft landscaping?
So the drawing you're seeing in front of you is our proposed site plan, which we
I know that, but what's the existing condition?
Yeah, I'm just about to mention. I don't have an actual drawing for you showing the existing condition of the landscaping. However, I do know that from my memory of the property as it currently stands, there is a large section of paving stretching from the little stairs you can see on the south portion of the property, which extend towards the back of the laneway. I don't have an exact number, as I mentioned to Ms. Valentini. However, I'm under the belief that the current paving would not exceed the legal bylaw just due to the fact that the parking spot, the pavers, and the extended landing would not be there. Though I cannot confirm.
So, putting it another way, do you currently have 50% rear yard soft landscaping or not?
I'm of the opinion that we do not, but again, I cannot confirm 100% certainty. Regardless of that fact, we are proposing this plan and intend to follow this plan regardless of the current situation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to determine if what you're proposing is in any way worse than what currently exists, and I think that's what Ms. Valentini was also trying to ascertain. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Any further questions, panel members? Okay, if there are no questions, we'll take it into committee. Sorry, did I hear somebody, or Mr. Nipfel? Did you have another question?
I'm sorry, I was clearing my throat. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Pardon me.
All right, so let's take it into committee then for a decision. Go ahead, Carl.
Madam Chairman, I support this application. I think the provision of the parking space is a reasonable thing to be done in this case. It provides a necessary support for the additional dwelling unit space. I don't think that at 31% that this is an unreasonable amount of softscape. And as Mr. Clay had indicated, if the applicant would be open to providing for permeable pavers for both the parking space and the walkway, notwithstanding the fact that the zoning inspector can't count that as soft landscaping, in effect, it does, it overcomes the sense of hardness in the backyard. I think that the proposal as submitted with the permeable paving is reasonable, and I'd like to move approval without any conditions.
Oh, did you want to make a condition for permeable pavers for the walkway and the parking spots? I think that's what Mr. Clay was wanting to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mind, that'd be fine. I thought that was part of the proposal. I thought the applicant indicated that was part of the proposal, but sure, a condition that the parking space and the walkway be impermeable pavers would be fine with me.
Okay, so that's the motion. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Clay? Okay, so the motion is to approve the application with a condition for permeable pavers for the parking spot as well as the rear walkway coming off the back. All in favor? And that's moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? The application's been approved. All right.
It's getting long, Clay.
Yeah, I know.
It is.
have a bit of vaccine fatigue too from my second dose, so, alrighty, so. Item number 38, 141 Cottingham Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. A covering letter from Peggy Chu, the agent. Correspondence in support from 34 Sydney Street. And we have 3 form letters signed in support, also signed by 34 Sydney, as well as 143 Cottingham, which is adjacent, and 164 Cottingham Street. Can I have the agent please identify herself for the record?
Sure, my name is Peggy Chu.
Okay, we don't have, I don't show any speakers, panel members. I don't think we need a presentation. We have 2 variances before us. Do you have any questions for Ms. Chu? Seeing none. Okay, Ms. Chu, we don't have any questions. We've read the materials. We're ready to take this into committee for a decision. Is there anything you want to add that's not part of what's already been submitted?
No, nothing.
Okay, let's take it into committee, panel members.
I'm happy to kick there if you like, or at least were you reaching? Again, this looks fairly straightforward, and it's in a neighborhood, large lots, large homes. I don't think the rear 3-story or second and third story addition would have any impact on the surrounding neighbors. In fact, there seems to be a fair amount of support kind of for this application. So I would move approval with no conditions.
All right, motion to approve moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you very much. The next item is item number 39, 38 Norlong Boulevard. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and we don't have any other correspondence. And I don't think we need a presentation on this one, but can I have the agent identify himself for the record, please?
Hi, Madam Chair and panel member. My name is Parisa Amiri. I'm the architect on the file. I'm happy to answer any question.
Okay, and you are speaking on behalf of the owner, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? No? Okay, Ms. Amiri, we don't have any questions. We have read all of the materials. Is there anything you want to add before we take this into committee for a decision?
No, just want to say this is pretty minor in our opinion, and it's very in line with the character of the neighborhood, and it's within the limit that has been supported by the committee adjustment so far, and I just leave it up to their hands for making a motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's take it into committee. Ms. Chan.
Okay, if and then more comments, I'm ready to move for approval because I will agree with the applicant that all the 4 variances are minor, and also there's no staff report or objections from the neighbors, and I'm ready to approve this, support this.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Clay? Okay, I have a motion to approve the application, moved by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 40, 44 HASLETT Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have revised plans submitted by Mr. de Oliveira, the agent. a staff report from community planning, which actually has the attached revised plans in it, and this was in our supplemental package. We have correspondence in support from number 6 Haslett Avenue, as well as number 28 Haslett, and I'm not showing any speakers. Can I have the agent please identify himself for the record?
Hi, yes, my name is Mike De Oliveira. I'm here representing 44 Haslett Avenue, and I'm with Replacement Design located at 911 Davenport Road. And just to clarify quickly, there should actually be, at the very least, 17 letters of support. One of the ones you may have looked at probably has the other 16 underneath it.
Okay, maybe they came after the materials were sent to us, so they may be posted on the AIC. They're just not part of our package if they were submitted later.
Oh, they were submitted previously. I see them flipping through it now on the screen.
Oh. Well, yeah,
Anyway,
that's fine. It's noted. I only have 2 here, so. But in terms of the planning staff report, you're meeting the conditions in the report, and that matches the revised plans that we did receive. Is that correct?
That's correct. We adjusted the drawings based on our conversations with Sean from Community Planning, and we went back and forth a few times to get the numbers was something they'd be supportive of, and we adjusted the drawings to match their comments.
So for the record,
so do you just want to, can you just amend the variances then, and then we can just, if we choose to approve it, we can approve the amended application with the revised plans attached?
Yes, the variances themselves actually aren't changing from what you have before you. It was just the drawings based on community planning's comments. We got them adjusted to match the neighborhood a bit more. So they didn't need us to change any of the numbers in the notice.
Okay, hold on.
if you look at planning's condition, it does change the variances.
Yeah,
both of them.
it goes from 0.96 to 0.95 on the FSI, and then the number 1 would be 9.12. Do you have the planning report there?
I have the planning report correct, but based on my conversations with John, that he was fine with leaving the numbers as is, but those numbers do match what we changed on the drawings themselves, so we're fine to move forward with that.
Well, if you're changing your plans, you have to change your variances, so that's what the committee's asking for. The plans have to match the variances.
Yes, it was just with our conversations with planning, they were okay using those numbers, so I guess he had changed his report based on the
But it doesn't matter. If you submitted revised plans, you have to give us the revised numbers. So can you please state those for the record?
Yes, certainly.
So I need you to amend variance number 2 to read 0.95 instead of 0.96, and then I need you to amend the first variance also.
Yes, so we'd like to amend the variance number 1 to 8.95 meters for the rear, and variance number 2 be reduced to 0.95 times the area.
But what about the other figure?
Yeah, 9.12 I read. I'm flipping back and forth here. So hang on.
Sorry, and for variance number 1, 9.12 in the front.
Okay, so the height of the front exterior main wall will be what?
9.12.
And then the height of the rear exterior main wall will be what?
8.95 meters.
And then the variance number 2, the 0.95, what does that translate to in GFA?
So you want square meters?
Yeah.
So that's 154.22 square meters.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yep. Go ahead.
That's precisely what I like to raise. I do not think the figure was right, although it's very small number. 0.95 is, if it's according to the site plan, the lot area is 161.71 square meter. 0.95 is only 153.62. That should be the number on it, not 154. Okay. I have gone through this figure a few times. I think I'm right. 0.95 is equivalent to 153.62 square meter. Given the survey and the sites and the lot area, based on the lot area.
Can you double check that, Mr. D'Oliveira?
If you do the number 154.22 divided by the lot area provided, it does come to 0.9536. So if you stick with rounding to 2 decimal points, it is 0.95.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. D'Oliveira, you're comfortable with 154.22 square meters, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Any other questions, panel members? Mr. Niffel.
Does the applicant have a drawing that indicates the implication of this particular rebuild on the adjacent attached building? When there's a semi, the imposition of something on the roof is somewhat more substantial. There's no drawing that I can find, unless it's buried somewhere in the material, that shows how this would appear relative to the attached semi.
So the attached semi is essentially the same as the current condition on the house. So if you look at the front elevation, you can see where there's a little bit of a
Yeah, I figured that out, but
but in terms of a 3D elevation or anything that you could see the attached neighbor a bit more clearly, we do not at this time, but we do have a letter of support from said neighbor. So they're aware of these changes and they're okay with our proposal.
Thank you.
Any further questions, panel members? Okay, seeing none. Mr. D'Oliveira, we're ready to go into committee. Is there anything else you want to add that's not in the submissions or that we've discussed?
No, I think, like I pointed out, there's been a lot of outreach by our clientele, the neighbors on the street. They essentially got support letters from about 18 people in total. It pretty much covers everyone on their block. I think the outreach and our planning report shows we try to keep things in line with the character of the neighborhood and have done the revisions required by planning to get to something that would be fitting. So I think we're ready to move forward.
Okay. Let's take it into committee for a decision. So we're looking at the amended application. Variance number 1 will read the height of the front exterior main wall will be 9.12 meters, and the height of the rear exterior main wall will be 8.95 meters, and variance number 2 will be changed to 0.95 times the area of the lot, which equals 154.22 square meters. Okay, any comments? Mr. Niffel?
Madam Chairman, I doubt that my view will be shared by the majority of the committee, but I'm unable to support this application. I think that the way in which the addition is being planned is inconsistent with the attached semi. I think it sets an extremely dangerous precedent about how one can expand a semi-detached dwelling in a manner that is somewhat abusive to the attached building. So I will not be supporting it. On another point, however, the applicant indicated that there was a lot more support than was originally introduced, and I did find it in the agenda. It's under correspondence in support number 1. Within what looks like one letter, there's a buried series of support letters, so that they are all there on our agenda.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Any other comments from any of the other panel members?
I also share Mr. Nipfel's concerns about the modification to the semi, so I also don't support the application. I think it leaves the attached neighbor. Often when we see additions on semis, sometimes we see more of a step back. If it's a third floor added and the other side's added, the other side's maintained as a 2-story. So I had concerns about that myself. I was sort of surprised planning didn't have anything else to say about that, but I don't support it as well.
Okay, any other comments? Ms. Chan, did you have a comment?
Oh,
If you
I'm
are
sort
here,
of torn, but then they do, it seems that they do have the support of next door neighbor with the number 42. That surprised me, although it doesn't seem to bother them. So in that case, and then I just zoom into the variance they're asking, and then I'm happy with the reduction of the variances. And so since there's no objection, maybe the next door neighbor were planning to do the same later. I'm not too sure, because that's not what for us in front of us. So I'm ready to support instead of turning it down for that reason.
okay, Mr. Clay.
So can you guys help me out? So for you said 42 is supportive? But 40, does anyone, Carl, did you see in any of the support letters 46?
Yes.
What was 40?
Yeah,
what was
42 and 46.
46 is supporting?
42, yeah, that's what I have in my notes. And number 48 and 50 also support. So I'm not too sure. That's in my notes. So they all in support of the proposal. Maybe they have the same intention of doing the same thing later.
I see 42.
I see 40.
And 46.
I've been scrolling through
Yeah.
all, yeah.
42 and 46 are both in support.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other comments? If not, I'll take a motion.
Yeah, so I just want, before we do a motion, I just want to make sure, I feel like we need to discuss this just a little bit more. I'm trying to put it in context of, the neighborhood. I'm trying to put it in the context of similar applications that we've had. And usually when we have this kind of an application, I agree, it's always controversial, it's contentious, when you do one half of the semi and not the other half of the semi. This is a little bit different in that there doesn't appear to be any opposition from either adjacent neighbor or those neighbors within reasonable proximity of this application. So, that's not the end of the world or the beginning of the world, but it does put it a little bit in the context for me, because we have approved these kinds of things in the past, and we have not approved similar ones. So I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I agree with Carly said in the sense that, yeah, it is a little bit out of character, but on the other hand, it's not entirely inconsistent with applications of a similar nature that we've approved elsewhere, even when there has been opposition. So I will admit I'm a little bit on the fence on this one, and just Those who know me, pretty rare. Chair, do you have a?
Anyone have anything else to add? If not,
I have expressed my opinion. I mean, in ideal world, that it's just like the previous application, that the two houses, the two semis will work together and build similar thing, right? But not in ideal world, when people do not oppose, means they agree to the development. That's my take.
okay. If there's nothing further, I do need a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Niffel.
Madam Chairman, I am very concerned about the precedent being set here. I hear and clearly accept the comments that everybody's made, but I still think that this is an extremely bad idea. I think it's a dangerous precedent in terms of semi-detached dwellings across the city. We need to always look at the implications of a particular proposal in context. I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that applications are not foregone approvals. The applicant has to make a case for adjusting the bylaw to accommodate a unique situation. I don't see that case being made here. I don't think that it's appropriate to adjust the zoning bylaw to allow for a semi-detached building to be altered in this way, which I frankly believe is quite unreasonable. And so on that basis, Madam Chairman, I would like to bring forward a motion of refusal on the application.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, so I have a motion to refuse the application, moved by Mr. Niffel, seconded by Ms. Valentini. All in favor? Okay, so that motion loses. Do I have another motion?
Okay, I will move for approval, given that the staff report also in support of the reduction of the variances and also the support of the neighborhood. I move for approval.
Okay, so we are, Ms. Chan is moving approval of the amended application with variance number 1 having been changed to 9.12 meters for the front exterior main wall, and the rear main wall goes to 8.95 meters, and variance number 2 for the floor space index is 0.95 with square meters of 154.22, which matches the conditions in the planning report. And then we would attach the revised plans that were submitted that match these variance amendments. Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, so the application as amended with the revised plans attached has been approved, and dissent would be Ms. Valentini and Mr. Nipfel, correct? Okay. Okay, so your application has been approved as amended. Okay, the next item is item number 41. Which is 488 McRoberts Avenue. We have before us a copy of the draft plan of survey, a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a lot analysis that was submitted by the agent. We have forestry asking for condition number 3. We would apply standard consent conditions, engineering conditions in the March 5th report, and planning conditions in the June 3rd report. And I have no further correspondence, and I'm not showing any speakers. Can I have the agent identify himself, please?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Chris Marchese, planner from Design Plan Services, here on behalf of the property owners of 488 McRoberts Avenue.
Okay. Panel members, do you need a presentation on this one, or can we go straight to questions? Do you have any?
I don't need a full presentation. I don't need a full presentation. I don't know if anybody else does.
Okay.
Neither do I.
All right, so questions. Do any of you have any questions for the agent? Okay, you're aware of the planning condition, Mr. Marchese?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I'm aware of all conditions proposed through this application and find them to be acceptable if the committee were to approve the severance and the associated minor variances here in front of you today.
Okay. Are there any questions, panel members? No?
Questions, I guess just more of a statement, just to say it out loud, but I appreciated the lot analysis. It does make things a lot easier when we're trying to figure out, you know, should this lot be severed or not? And if you could just confirm for me, there are other lots. It looks like there are, based on your lot analysis, other lots that are under the current requirement of 6 meters, right? That's correct, right?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, anything that is either in the lightest green or yellow is under the minimum 6 meters in terms of required lot frontage, and not on this map, but also a recent approval was at 490 McRoberts Avenue, which was approved at 5.5 meters. So those would be another 2 lots abutting our property that would have almost identical lot frontage as what we're proposing here today in front of you.
Okay, any other questions, panel members? Ms. Chan?
Oh, just one thing sticks out to me is that there's no, at least I don't have the notes of any labor support or objections. Have you reached out to the neighbors?
Through you, Madam Chair, I've had personally no contact with the neighbors, but this area is obviously in the middle of transition where semis are being built on smaller lots and permitted to do as such in terms of built form. I've obviously not had any personal one-on-one conversations with the neighbors, but as you can see here, there's no one in opposition on this file in front of you today.
Just want to make sure that, thanks.
Mr. Clay, do you have a question?
Just to put into context, the new build right next door, it looks like a semi. Do you know, happen to know what size, I mean, from your lot analysis, what size lot frontage that has? Just want to get a relative sense of comparability.
Perfect, yeah. Through you, Madam Chair, the lot to the north, so 490 was approved at 5.50, and 484 and 486 right to the south were approved at 5.48 meters and 5.49 meters respectively.
Great. That's very helpful, thank you.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Marchese, we're ready to take this into committee. We have read all the material, and again, thank you for the lot analysis. Is there anything you want to add that's not part of the submissions?
At this point, through you, Madam Chair, no further comments on the application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's take it into committee for a decision, panel members. Mr. Niffel.
Madam Chairman, I sound like a broken record, but I'd also like to thank the applicant for the lot analysis. It makes our job that much easier. I'm quite convinced that the proposal with regard to the consent is consistent with the area, and there's substantive information here that it's compatible with what's been done in the immediate neighborhood. So I'd like to bring forward a motion of approval for the consent subject to the standard development engineering conditions. and I believe, I stand to be corrected on this, there's a forestry condition, and I believe it applies to the consent.
That's what I had noted also, the forestry number 3.
Okay, so it's forestry condition number 3 and the development engineering conditions which apply to the consent.
Okay. So do I have a seconder for that motion on the?
And there's also a staff report condition that not so a condition imposed recommended by the staff report.
Yeah,
I
that
believe
the planning
it
one.
has to be like.
That's for the variances,
That's for
though,
the
is it
that's
not?
for the variances, Ms. Chan. We're just
is the-
dealing with the consent right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Carl, you want to say it again?
Yeah.
So for the
Okay.
for the consent.
Approval of the consent subject to development engineering and forestry condition number 3.
Okay. Do I have a seconder, Mr. Clay? So all in favor on the consent? Okay. Ms. Chan, are you in favor? Like you're actually cutting in and out and freezing, so. And, okay, Carl, do you want to move parts 1 and 2 together then?
Certainly. I would like to move,
Yes,
again, I have no sorry, go ahead. I have no difficulty with the variances that are proposed. I think they're reasonable, and I'd like to move approval of the variances, and they're subject to the planning department condition building in compliance with the elevations that are received and dated December the 11th, 2020.
Okay, are you seconding again, Mr. Clay? Okay, so that motion is for parts 1 and 2, moved by Mr. Niffel, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, so that's also unanimously approved. So your application has been approved as a whole. Thank you very much. Item number 42. 28 Marlow Avenue. We have before us a copy of the minutes from the October 2nd, 2020 public hearing. This matter was deferred at that time. Copy of the plan of survey. We have a revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations. And we have planning asking for a condition that variance number 4 related to the maximum permitted floor space index of a semi-detached dwelling shall be limited to the 1-story addition as illustrated in drawing site plan A2, basement plan A3, first floor plan A4, and elevations A6, 7, and 8. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, you do. Good afternoon. My name is Colin Lightbourne. I'm the agent for the owner of 28 Marlow Avenue.
Okay.
This application.
I'm not sure we need a presentation, so let me go to my members. I don't show any speakers, so I think we may go straight to questions. Panel members, do you need a presentation, or can we go straight to questions?
Maybe just an explanation about why it was deferred.
Okay.
Certainly, I'll be more than happy. This application was before the committee actually on May 12th of this year. At that time, the owner of the adjacent property that will be number 30 Marlow Avenue had some concerns with the stability of the soil during the construction phase. At that time, we did have a soil engineer's report. Unfortunately, he didn't have a copy at that time, so he was unable to grant permission. We have since then made some changes to the structure. The application on May 13th showed a walkout basement. This application now has no basement, so there is no issue now regarding the soil stability concerns that the neighbor had.
Okay, thank you.
Panel members, I don't know if this is of interest to you, but I did write down the differences. So the parking variance is the same. And then I had that, originally they were asking for 56%, now it's 52.55. And, just let me pull up the variances here, just give me a second. Then, yeah, the length was originally 18.11 meters. And, and the FSI was 1.16, and now it's 1.07, so they did make some changes. Do you have any more questions for Mr. Lightbourne? No further questions? Ms. Valentini.
Sorry, I was just looking again at the lot coverage. Sir, is that a lot of that attributed to the existing garage? So it doesn't look like the addition's very large, but.
The addition is very small in comparison to the garage. So the lot coverage for East York includes the footprint of the existing garage and, of course, the enclosed front porch.
Oh, okay, and not the deck though, right? That doesn't count for lot coverage?
Yes.
Okay.
Previously.
Did we lose him? You still there, Mr. Lightbourne? I'm not sure if we lost you.
Yes, I'm waiting.
Okay. All right. Panel members, any further questions? Seeing none. Okay, Mr. Lightbourne, we've reviewed all the material. I don't see any further questions from the members, so we're ready to take it into committee. Is there anything else you want to add that wasn't in the submissions and the previous materials before we go into committee?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's take it into committee, panel members, for a decision.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to jump in. When looking at the addition, as I had pointed out, I don't see it being a large addition. Lot coverage does look high, but I think that's attributed to the existing garage. So I don't have any concerns with this application. I mean, the depth is slightly over, and it's been approved since the last time it was before the committee. Sounds like the attached neighbors satisfied, their issues have been addressed. So I'm happy to bring a motion forward unless anybody has any other comments. It doesn't look like it, so I'll bring forward a motion for approval of the application, Madam Chair, without any conditions.
The planning conditions, though. There's a
Yes.
report.
Yeah, there's a planning condition.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Oh, shoot. Yes.
Yeah, the June 9th report.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes, I didn't note it in my notes, but yes, and it'd be subject to the planning conditions, that it be, that it be built in accordance to the elevations.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Nipfel? Okay, with the planning condition in the June 9th report, all in favor of approving the application, moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. Okay, your application's been unanimously approved.
Thank you very much, committee members.
Okay, good
Madam
night.
Chairman.
The next item is item number 43, 1001 O'Connor Drive. We have before us a copy of the minutes from the February 17th public hearing. This is also a matter that's been deferred or was deferred. We have a copy of the plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a covering letter from Mr. Paul, the agent, email correspondence from Transportation Engineering. Forestry's asking for condition number 1, and I believe that's the only condition. Not showing any speakers registered. Can I have the agent please identify himself for the record?
Sydney Paul, Point Architects.
Mr. Paul, I know there was some question amongst some of us members with respect to how different the variances are this time, and I'm assuming it's because it's now being looked at as a whole on the building, whereas before you were asking for for the 5 surface spots, so the way they interpret is different. But if you can just clarify why the variance is so different compared to last time.
Okay, so it's an and/or situation. So if you add parking to the site, then there is no variance required for adding an apartment unit to the building. But when you add the apartment building to the unit without adding parking to the site, then you are 1 parking space deficient. And that is what's on the zoning notice and the basis of this revised application.
But
could I ask for clarification? I remember this application, and you were always proposing an additional unit, were you not?
Correct.
And the only difference was that in order to accommodate the parking, you, as I recall, you wanted to put some parking in the front yard, and the planning department said they didn't want you to put parking in the front yard, and if you were deficient 1 parking space, they'd be more prepared to accept that than parking in the front yard. And I think they reiterated that in their report. What I don't understand is when you were before committee last time, you were deficient 1 parking space and you were adding 1 unit, correct?
No, because we were because we were adding parking to the front of the property, we would not be deficient with parking. And because it's written as in that way, I couldn't then ask for relief for the parking to allow for the apartment to be built. I was in a dilemma based on what we were trying to do, and I hope that's clear.
But
no, it's not. And it's not your fault. It's perhaps the bylaw. The way it is before us now, it sounds as though there is a 26 parking space deficiency. And the question that I have, and we were just trying to determine this previously, if you were deficient 26 parking spaces, if you're deficient 26 parking spaces now, were you not deficient 26 parking spaces when you were here before?
The zoning examiner could explain this better. We are legal non-conforming. The building was built that way at the time, and when it was built, it was legal to have that amount of parking. Subsequently, and the latest bylaws require more parking than for a building if that building were to be built today.
So because, okay, I don't want to make this more complicated, but because they're asking for an extra unit, that then triggers the current requirement for the entire building, and that's why it's showing.
It does not. I'm sorry, it doesn't require an entire building. Otherwise, the zoning examiner would have put that on his notice that we were deficient. The reason that the 26 parking spaces was added was because I'm not sure if it was Bram or someone else in the committee of adjustment department wanted to know how many spaces would be deficient if the building were built today. The zoning examiner originally did not put that information on the form. It was requested by the Committee of Adjustment Department.
It doesn't often, when you see the construction, or I don't know if this is the reason, construction or changes to a non-conforming building, often it triggers variances that are already pre-existing.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that kind of before. So I'm not saying, it's a pre-existing condition. I'm not suggesting you needed an extra parking space for the extra unit added, but
that's
maybe because... Is that what you're trying to say, Madam Chair? Or?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Am I
Quite often,
okay.
Yeah, I've seen it over the years for many things, even where tables are added to a restaurant or a pool hall, that then triggers whatever the current requirement is. So perhaps I didn't word it the right way, but that's what I was trying to say.
Can I add my comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
The non-conforming the non-conformance is only valid when you do not make any changes. But I think that if you do make changes, they will be visited and then you have to get approval from C of A. That's what I understand.
That is, I'm sorry, but that, I have done this at least 10 times in the last 5 years. And this was the first time that the committee requested that we put the number of parking spaces on the zoning review, but the zoning review does not say that that there is a deficiency. The only deficiency that we are short based on the zoning review is 1 parking space. The other ones are legal non-conforming and are not required as part of this committee application. And that's what's specifically on the application. It says that we are short 1 parking space. The other legal non-conforming is in, as it says, legal non-conforming. The application is only about the adding the 1 unit. We've done this for 26 Gamble. I've done it for, I'm forgetting my words now. I have a whole list of these that I could give you for various clients, not just this client. We just did it for St. Denis, and we do it all the time, and it's only because they asked that the zoning examiner added it to the form. I'm not concealing anything here. I'm telling you what happened, and I could even produce the original zoning review where it didn't mention the deficiency of the existing legal non-conforming apartment building.
So I don't have any difficulty with what you're trying to do. I'm just trying to understand it. So the variant, what is the variance you're requesting? The variance is that you're requesting is that you provide 42 parking spaces. That's it.
Presumably, that would be correct, that we maintain the number of parking spaces that we have present. That is another way of saying that but the only thing that's a variance is that we're short the 1 parking for the new unit. And that's, previously we were trying to add slightly more than 1 parking space. But
in the front yard.
In the front yard, but that was considered inappropriate.
Yeah, okay.
All right, and go ahead.
I would agree that it isn't worded the best way. The zoning review does say the proposal of 1 additional dwelling unit requires an additional parking space. The existing building has 84 dwelling units, which would require 67 parking spaces. However, the number of existing parking spaces on the lot is 42. The proposal is to maintain the existing number of parking spaces at 42 spaces.
Okay.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Thank you for clarifying.
I'd also, if I could ask the committee also to remove the forestry report requirement, because we're not building any parking in the front of the building. Their report is about doing work on the outside of the building, and we won't be doing any work on the outside of the building.
Okay. Panel members, any further questions? Okay.
I don't have any more questions because I don't want to complicate the issues.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Paul, do you have anything else to add? I think we were just trying to understand the differences between the two, like the last application and the one behind us. I think we all understand that you have an existing condition, and I don't have the zoning review here, so appreciate Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer reading it. That clarifies things a bit more. But having said that, is there anything you'd like to add before we go into committee?
I'm not sure if you heard me say that the forestry condition.
I did, we did. So you feel that because there's no external construction, you're just doing an interior conversion, you feel the forestry report no longer applies?
Correct.
Okay. All right, panel members. So we're looking at the application that's before us, and we've been asked to not consider the forestry condition. Okay, so let's take it into committee.
Madam Chairman, I don't have any difficulty with what the applicant's proposing. I recall when this was before committee previously, the applicant has agreed to remove his proposed parking from the front yard, which was the major concern of the planning department. I presume that I'm familiar with the site. It doesn't appear to me that there's been a parking problem, so the proposer or the development has existed with 42 parking spaces for some time. I don't see that the additional dwelling unit is going to make that problem or make that issue a problem. I'm supporting of the variance. I'm just not sure how we're wording it. I'm wondering if the Deputy Secretary Treasurer would like to give us a wording for it, but my understanding is that we're recommending I'm recommending through the motion that the proposal can continue with 42 existing parking spaces. I also agree with the applicant's point about forestry. There is no external work being undertaken, and therefore it doesn't appear that the forestry condition is applicable.
Okay, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do you have anything to add in terms of the purpose, or if we need to reword anything?
We can reword the variance similar to how I read it from the zoning review.
Yeah.
If you trust.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Of course we trust you.
Okay, so we have a motion moved by Mr. Nipfel to approve the application and not include the forestry condition as it's not applicable, and the variance will be reworded to show that in fact the parking condition is an existing one and that they're only deficient one parking spot. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Ms. Valentini? Okay, all in favor? Okay, so your application has been approved. Okay, our final application for today is number 4420 Balsam Road. We have before us a copy of the minutes from the February 17th public hearing and the materials submitted at that time. This matter was deferred at that time. We have a copy of the plan of survey, a revised site plan, floor plans and elevations, 53 photographs of the property, a covering letter from Mr. Engelman, the agent, a 5-signature petition in support from number 5, 8, 12, 13, and 15 Balsam Road. We have correspondence in opposition from 194 Balsam, and I'm showing a speaker representing 192 Balsam. Yeah? Okay. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, Madam Chair. My name is David Eagleman, and I am the agent on behalf of the property owners.
Okay, I do have a speaker listed on behalf of 192 Balsam, so can I ask you to do a presentation, please? No more than 5 minutes.
Yes, Madam Chair, no problem. So, through you, Madam Chair, good evening, and good evening, fellow committee members. My name is David Eagleman, and I'm a planner at Design Plan Services. We've been retained by the property owners of 20 Balsam Road to present this Committee of Adjustment application in front of you today. The application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition, a rear basement addition, and a rear 2nd-story deck. The application has 4 associated variances under Bylaw 569/2013. Before getting into the variances, this file was previously deferred due to a missed variance on the original zoning notice dated July 28, 2020. Since the previous deferral, a revised set of plans and corresponding zoning notice have been submitted to the committee. I would like to note that the TRCA has no objections to this application and I'm aware of Urban Forestry's recommendation to impose standard condition number 3, which the client deems to be acceptable should this application be approved today. Regarding the variances, the FSI is proposed at 0.7 times the area of the lot, whereas 0.35 times is permitted. The proposed FSI will result in a 195.45 square meter home, which is modest in size for a single detached residential dwelling. The increase in FSI will result in an additional 66.47 square meters, which is approximately 33.24 square meters, or 357.8 square feet over 2 floors, and will not affect the existing streetscape along Balsam Road. The area of the lot is 581.2 square meters. However, based on zoning calculations, the area of the lot is technically 280.03 square meters, due to the fact that any land beyond the long-term stable top of slope is not included within the FSI calculation. If the entire lot area were to be considered, the proposed FSI is 0.34 times the area of the lot, which is compliant with the bylaw. Additionally, there have been other approvals for FSI along Balsam Road, and they are as follows. 3 Balsam Road was approved at 488.56 square meters, or 0.54 times. 8 and 12 Balsam Road was approved at 508.19 square meters, or 0.9 times. And 15 Balsam Road was approved at 326 square meters, or 0.5 times the area of the lot. Based on these approvals, it is demonstrated that although the proposed FSI of 0.7 seems large from a quantitative perspective, it is in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood character, given that there are dwellings on the same street with an additional 300 square meters of GFA over what is being proposed through this application. As such, the proposed built form and massing will respect and reinforce the existing neighborhood characteristics. The roof eaves projection is a result of the existing dwelling having a north side yard setback of 0.38 meters. The proposed addition will maintain the existing side yard setback condition on the property, and by extension will maintain the existing roof eaves projection on the north side. The height of the side exterior main walls is proposed at 7.78 meters, whereas 7.5 is permitted. I would like to note that there are no variances for overall height, length, or depth being sought with this proposal, and I would also like to ask staff to pull up the west elevation drawing. The proposed height of the side exterior main wall is taken from the established grade to 0.32 meters below the peak of the proposed new roof on the west side. Taken from the proposed second floor.
Okay, we lost you.
Side. Hello?
Yeah, can you back up? Back up a couple sentences. We lost you for a second.
Sure, no problem. So the proposed height of the side exterior main walls is taken from the established grade to 0.32 meters below the peak of the proposed new roof on the west side. Taken from the proposed second floor ceiling of the addition, the proposed side exterior main wall height on the west side is at 6.65 meters, which is compliant with the bylaw. On the east side, the proposed side exterior main wall height is at 6.65 meters at its highest point. The proposed side exterior main wall height variance is only for a small portion of the west side exterior main wall and is due to an architectural feature. The area of the rear second story deck is proposed at 8.92 square meters, whereas a maximum of 4 square meters is permitted. The proposed rear deck is only accessible through the master bedroom, and as such, the proposed rear deck will not be a main place of congregation. The proposed rear deck will include 6-foot-tall privacy screening as well on both the east and west sides, and will not have any impacts further than what the bylaw already contemplates. Based on the provided justification, I am of the opinion that this proposal fits in with both the existing and planned context for the neighborhood, is consistent with the redevelopment trends along Balsam Road and the broader neighborhood context, and for these reasons, I believe this application represents good planning and meets the 4 test under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you want to hold your questions till we hear from the opposition? Yeah? Okay. Mr. Helfand, are you there?
Oh, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Can you just identify yourself for the record, please?
Absolutely. Certainly. My name is Matthew Helfand, and I'm a lawyer for the owners of 192 Balsam,
Okay.
and that house is directly adjacent to the subject property, more or less to the northeast of the subject lands.
All right, the 5 minutes starts now, so you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, this application comes back to the committee following a deferral, as you know, where the member explicitly encouraged the applicant to speak with the neighbors to try and resolve concerns. No resolutions have been reached, and the applicant now proposes virtually the same development with the same impacts, particularly on the adjacent lands, including my clients. It's my submission to the committee today that the proposed development should be refused as it does not meet the 4 tests. In respect of the official plan, OP Policy 4.1.8 specifically directs that zoning bylaws shall contain numerical site standards for matters such as density to ensure that new development will be compatible with the physical character of existing residential neighborhoods. What we see with this proposal is a significant departure from the numerical zoning standards in respect of density and second-story platform area. And considering the width of this lot, we see a massing and a form of development that dominates the adjacent houses and isn't consistent or compatible with the physical character of the neighborhood. The precedents provided by the applicant do not satisfy the requirement of demonstrating what the physical character is, as again, we're dealing with a lot that's significantly narrower and the impacts are adjusted accordingly. In respect to the zoning bylaw element of the test, I first want to highlight the proposed density. And the subject lands are in an RD zone where an FSI of 0.35 are permitted, and the applicant is seeking to double that. FSI standards are not irrelevant, and they should not be thrown away simply when inconvenient. They are intended to regulate built form on a specific lot and to control the massing of a structure that can be built. This is an important element of reinforcing neighborhood character and also ensuring appropriate fit and context. And in this case, the proposed development will tower over the adjacent extensions and also permit a second floor balcony, which the applicant seeks to double in permissions. The 8.92 meter square balcony, which is double what is permitted, does not satisfy the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, as what the applicant is attempting to do is reduce the existing rear yard amenity space and effectively replace that with a second story platform. That is not the intent of the zoning bylaw, and that is not the intent of the zoning bylaw with respect to either permitted density or the area for for second story platforms. With respect to the test of minor and desirable, I'd urge the committee to look at the location map, as it demonstrates very well just how narrow this lot is. And the doubling or more in respect of density and second floor platform space, purely from a numerical standpoint, needs to be scrutinized. But in this case, the quantitative departure from the existing permissions really drives qualitative impacts to the adjacent houses, including my clients. Although there's no overall building height variance that's being proposed, I urge the committee to consider that the second floor addition is only permitted by virtue of the FSI variance. That is where the density is going. And by virtue of the FSI variance, permitting this second story, a second floor platform is then permitted, is now an option, and the applicant then seeks to double the permitted area of that platform. This creates a condition of privacy invasion and overlook which is unmitigated by the proposed privacy screens, because if you look at the plans, it only blocks view of privacy and overlook from the right and to the left, and not looking to the south and to the southwest and the southeast. A person standing on this proposed platform has the ability to look right into the adjacent backyards, and in particular into my client's pool and outdoor amenity space. In addition, the two-story proposal will create shadowing impacts on my client's property, in particular on their rear yard amenity and their pool, and also into their house. What the committee should note in terms of relationship between the buildings is that my client's sidewall contains a glass door which provides light into their family room and home office that currently enjoys a comfortable relationship with the adjacent rear yard amenity space. That will be completely blocked and restricted. My clients also have concern with respect to the eaves variances. An extension to the eaves will potentially cause runoff onto my client's property and to the wooden fence. Again, we see an addition to the back that is not appropriate in terms of the context, considering how narrow the lot is and considering the scale of the density and the increased second-story platform that is being proposed.
Mr. Helfand, you're approaching 5.5 minutes. Can I ask you to wrap up, please?
Absolutely. So in conclusion, I would just state that it's the applicant's onus to demonstrate material consistency with the neighborhood character. That has not been done. This is a narrow lot and the relationship needs to be considered. This application should be refused.
Panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Clay.
Yes, I just looking at the lot configurations between your client and the proponent. It looks to me like the proposed in 20 would not go any deeper than the extension to your client's house. Is that a fair assessment?
In terms of length, that's right, but it is adjacent now to two one-story additions where the proposal is for a second story.
Okay.
Any other questions for the speaker? Panel members? Mr. Niffel?
Just to pick up on Mr. Clay's point, notwithstanding the fact that the two-story section is about the same length as your client's property, the deck extends beyond that, does it not?
That's right, and I was interpreting his question in respect of building envelope, but that is right. The deck does extend beyond that.
And it's shown on your drawing. The drawing that was up before tends to show that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions of the speaker, panel members? Okay, thank you, Mr. Helfand. Mr. Eagleman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Madam Chair.
If you could please address the concerns expressed by Mr. Helfand.
Yes, I would be happy to. So, through you, Madam Chair, in regards to consultation with the neighbors, there has actually been quite extensive consultation that has taken place between my client and the surrounding neighbors, including the neighbors located at 192 Balsam Avenue. Through the consultation that has taken place, my client has agreed to reduce the area of the proposed rear second-story deck and has also included the 6-foot-tall privacy screening on both sides of the deck, the east and west sides. Unfortunately, these revisions were not to the satisfaction of the neighbors who are in opposition of this application, but we did make quite an extensive effort to consult with the neighbors and address some of their concerns. In regards to the massing and built form, the proposed addition will be in line with the existing side exterior main walls of the existing dwelling on the property. So although it is quite a narrow lot, the addition will be in line and at the rear of the existing dwelling. In regards to the density being doubled, the existing density is actually at 0.46 times. So the existing dwelling is above the maximum required 0.35 times, and the addition will only be increasing the FSI by 0.24 times on the property. In regards to towering over the adjacent properties, there is no height variance or number of story variance. There's no the side exterior main wall height variance is, as I mentioned in my initial presentation, is just a result of an architectural feature on the west side, and most of the dwelling is actually compliant with side exterior main wall height. And in regards to the rear yard, there's no variance for rear yard setback. And the shadowing impacts, again, there's no variances for overall height, or length or depth, and the proposal, in regards to shadowing impacts, the proposal is already contemplated by the policies of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. In regards to drainage concerns, that is not something that is in the purview of this committee, and that is something that would be dealt with at the building permit stage. So I think that addresses most of what Mr. Helfand mentioned, so thank you.
I just have a question. You mentioned that you did have discussions and you were willing to reduce the deck or the platform, as it's called here. Are you planning to revise this variance at all, or you're going forward with it as is?
So through you, Madam Chair, the application was previously deferred, as I noticed as well, and when we had to submit for a new, the application was deferred due to the zoning notice being incorrect and missing a variance related to the deck. So when we had to submit for a new zoning notice, that is when we revised the plans, and when we got the new zoning notice, that corresponds to the revision of the reduced deck size. So the variance that you see in front of you on the public notice is accurate and reflects the proposal that is in front of you today.
I see. So originally you were making it even bigger than what we have before us? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions? Ms. Valentini?
I don't see in the prior application, I don't see a variance unless I'm looking at the wrong
There was
stuff.
no variance for the
Variance for the deck.
platform. I think that was part of why it was deferred, because it was missing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Go ahead, Ms. Valentini.
Sorry, I'm having trouble unmuting. In terms of the sidewall height, you said that the west side, there's just a architectural feature. Is that because it's peaked? Is the peak? Is that where, like, what's this architectural feature that requires the variance for the sidewall height?
So through you, Madam Chair, that is correct. It is
Okay.
due to the peak, because the sloped roof on the west side faces the west. So due to that peak on the sloped roof, a portion of basically above that proposed window that you see on the west side to the peak, or to just below the peak, yeah, that is what that the sidewall height variance is coming from.
Thank you.
Mr. Niffel?
There is a proposal for, in your drawings, of a 6-foot high privacy screen. It doesn't indicate what it's made of, although the way it's drawn, it looks like it's glass. Normally, we had this discussion at an earlier application today. Normally, we require a 1.5 meter opaque permanent screen around decks and so forth for privacy. Would you have difficulty if we put that in as a requirement? It's a little different than what you have. The question we had earlier is whether or not and it's exactly the same issue, whether a 6-foot high fence, in fact, complies with the municipal law, and we know that 1.5 meters does, and our normal condition requires that it be permanent and be opaque. It seems to me that those two characteristics are important.
Through you, Madam Chair, that is something that is acceptable, and if the committee were to approve this application with that condition being imposed, then there would be no issue. We have no issue with that.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
No, just in terms of the deck, I find the deck to be a bit intrusive. We often see these decks the deck step back, like if the second floor step back, then the deck kind of doesn't project beyond the rear wall often. So in terms of overlook on the neighbors because it's protruding out even further. I have some concerns about the deck. I'm not necessarily speaking to the second story, the two-story addition, but the deck itself. I don't know, unless anybody can point anything out, or the, you know, someone can to convince me other.
So I can respond to that through you, Madam Chair. As you can see, the existing dwelling at 18 Balsam Road extends quite into the rear yard quite far as compared to the subject property, and the proposed rear deck will be less intrusive into the rear yard than the existing addition at 18. So it's not an uncommon condition in this neighborhood to have windows and decks in the rear yard that overlook neighboring properties, and there is actually quite a bit of vegetation and trees located in the area as the property backs onto a ravine. So there is canopy coverage and vegetation that, you know, would help mitigate the privacy impacts of the proposed deck, as well as the privacy screening that would be on the deck.
But what about in terms of between your client and 192 Balsam Avenue? Is there vegetation? I didn't look like it from the photos. It looked like a fence, but maybe I'm wrong.
Through you, Madam Chair, there is no vegetation on that side. However, again, the privacy screening that is being proposed would help mitigate any privacy concerns, and it's really something that is a fairly common condition in this neighborhood.
And I guess if this were to be approved as of right, you'd be able to build a deck that was half the size in any event. Is that correct? I mean, it would be small, but you would be able to do that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, panel members? Okay, no further questions? Can you flip them? Thanks. Okay, if there are no further questions, then we'll take it into committee for a decision. Any comments?
Okay, maybe I can start with the comment about the deck. I have heard the opposition, but on the other hand, also I have heard the applicants mentioning that it's only connecting or coming out from the master bedroom, so means that it's not really coming out from a common or shared living space. So I think that is probably just very few people will go out there, and also the depth is 6 feet. Is not like going to accommodate a large group, so I'm not that concerned with that. And the only one variance is the FS5, and then I think that in that most of the new development will ask for that kind of density, and I'm okay with it because the planning department has not shown any objection either.
Okay, any other comments, panel members? Mr. Nipfel?
Ian, could I get clarification on your position? I gather you're going to move the motion. The applicant already has proposed privacy screening on the north and the south side of the deck. Are you suggesting he doesn't need to do that, or you're still supportive of that screening?
I think that it should have some privacy screening. No.
Okay, and would you be agreeable to it being the standard, which is it's opaque and permanent at 1.5? Okay, I wasn't clear where you were coming from.
I think that's a good condition. I
think with that condition in forestry number 3, I don't have any difficulty supporting the application.
Okay,
So I'm going to move for approval subject to the privacy screen on the rear deck, 1.5 meter from the deck floor, both sides, and also the urban forestry condition number 3.
okay, so that's motion has been moved by Ms. Chan. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Nipfel, all in favor? Okay, your application has been approved with those 2 conditions. Thank you, everybody. The committee stands adjourned at 6:40.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
members.
Great job,
Good night,
Nancy.
everybody.